I'll use the metaphor of the hearth, both literal and symbolic, to show how Ignatian spirituality can help us to tend that sacred fire that still burns in our homes and hearts. In many African cultures, the hearth is not just a place for fire. It is the sacred center of the home. Food is prepared at the hearth. Wisdom is also passed. Elders meet. Children meet. Families meet at the end of the day. And it is where dignity was modeled and love lived. And even though in today's homes, we don't really have the traditional hearth, it lives on in our living rooms, in our kitchens, in quiet evening conversations. It is still there. And so I call the hearth the first school where children learn, the first chapel where they learn about God, the first mission ground where they learn what is expected of them. So it is not just a physical fire, but where formation encounters are hosted, where the soul and family are shaped, where the spark of faith, identity, and purpose is kindled again and again. If the hearth is the heart of the home, then the African family is the circle that gathers around the hearth, breathing life into it. The African family is not just individualistic. It's not just a group of individuals. It is spiritual and sacramental too, because it is Ubuntu. I am because we are. I cannot think of myself without thinking of my family. So the hearth actually becomes the stage where we will live this Ubuntu, where we share meals. Children have wisdom imparted to them, wisdom that has been gained through generations and through experience that is passed on. One learns generosity by receiving something at the hearth before asking for it. Patience by listening to the stories before talking. So we learn quiet correction at the hearth. I want to use the hearth to talk about a place where life is passed on. Love is rekindled every day, a space of encounter, formation, and grace. Unfortunately, the hearth today is dying away in the family. It's being marginalized. The fire is gone, but the embers are there. The hearth never goes cold. There is always some fire waiting to be rekindled. What is causing this? There's a lot of migration from war. Economics is making people migrate. Even worse is the screens that have taken over the homes. We are together, alone is what I like to say. But the heart still flickers. Like I said, it hasn't gone off. You will find families still find time to pray together, to eat together. There are several ways that the principle and foundation and the preparation days before it, as Chetlo calls them, that the family can use to rekindle and tend this fire so that it's bright again. But I'll only look at two examples of how this can be done. The first one is the family examine. First, we can give thanks, each one offering a moment of gratitude about what happened. And then each voice is heard, because it's not about fixing, it's about noticing what happened. And then gently we can ask, where was God in all this? Did we feel close to God? Did we feel far? And finally, we can look ahead with a simple prayer. Lord, help us to love better as a family tomorrow. A blessing could be made on each child or each family member, maybe by the father, the mother. It's a practice of remembering, forgiving, and hoping, and it makes the hearth become holy ground. This shared examine strengthens the emotional and spiritual bonds within the family, and it will slowly teach discernment, gratitude, and reconciliation in daily life. And it will help the children grow in what I am for now calling God awareness. And adults can deepen their vocation also as parents. And it mirrors the traditional evening storytelling. The second one I would like to use is building a family vision rooted in the principle and foundation. So our family vision can become a reflection of God's dream for us. And it answers the question of what kind of people are we becoming together? What is our shared hope for the world around us? And our mission then will grow from living this vision. Even in our own parenting, it will tell us how we use our time, how we relate with our children, and then our values from this will become like guideposts. This practice is not about perfection, it's really about direction, a direction for the whole family towards God. But that said, this is easier said than done. Even if the African family is like any well-used hearth, it's dying, like I said. And what are some of the reasons that cause it to die? One of them is when the flame feels foreign. Then our life moves too fast, juggling multiple jobs to make ends meet, children going to school too early, coming home late. So the rhythm of daily life is fast, it's fragmented. So how can we find time? Because we want the fire, but where's the time to sit and enjoy the fire? And then the fire also speaks another language. They still feel misaligned with spiritual, African spirituality, in the sense of, how do I dance the contemplation to attain divine love so that we all enjoy it? Is that something we can do? Is there a story that we can use? So the heart speaks in story and song, but the exercises arrive in silence and script. Then we have the heart feeling cold. We've had some examples of you are excommunicated, or you're on the line to receive communion, you're pulled out of the line by the catechist. So you feel like you're not wanted by this church. Parents feel inadequate to lead prayer. Young people struggle to connect. So the embers are there, but discouragement settles in like ash on the soul. What will we do about this? I have 4 thoughts on this as I get to my conclusion. One would be inculturation, which is a gift of the Holy Spirit, God's way of allowing the gospel to take root in every culture. So how can we make the exercises find a natural home in our homes, where contemplation may happen, maybe not in silence only, but in song and how we speak? Can we have simplified oral friendly resources so that we can listen? Even when Our Lady appeared in Kibeho, if I read that she invited children to sing and play. So how can we involve that kind of thing in our exercises? And then, of course, formation of lay animators and spiritual companions. I cannot overemphasize this. Mothers can teach something if they are taught, and it doesn't have to be complicated, and they can learn over time. But what do we do? Fathers can help with leading discernment. How do they learn how to do that? It needs training. And I thought of something called hearth circles. In this area where we live as families away from our biological family, can we form, we call them small Christian communities, but can we actually have these hearth circles that maybe 3 or 4 families supporting each other in exercising the spiritual exercises? So, my conclusion is a call to rekindle this fire, because the heart still glows in many homes, real or symbolic ones, where stories are still told, food is shared, where spiritual exercises can be adapted with humility and creativity, offering families a path to inner freedom, purpose, and deeper love. They are not reserved for few, but given for the many. So my challenge is, how can we give them to the many? For those seeking God in the kitchen, at the school gate, in conflict. This is a call to all of us, to parents, educators, clergy. Bring the exercises home. Nourish this flame in the African soil. Let them be sung, spoken, acted, and lived in the language of the people, with the wisdom of the elders and the curiosity of the young, because a fire that is fed warms the whole homestead, and that spills to other families. We can learn once more how to tend this fire, slowly, patiently, and with care. Children want safety in the love of the parent. So if they know that if they say something, it will turn back against them, then it doesn't work. And the parent has to learn that sometimes you will hear hard things and you're not welcome to do anything about them. So it's a kind of two-way street. But since it's the parent who's the adult, even if the child is an adult, I think I would call them to be more prepared for a harder time in that. But it can work, because like in my family, we did the vision mission when my children were much older, when I stumbled upon it. But it works if you introduce it and talk about it. And they really do get enthusiastic if they know they are being listened to and respected. On the small Christian communities and extending out, and related to the first question, sometimes in my head I think about a program like marriage preparation with an Ignatian flavor. Now, I will talk about my own challenge within the parishes around me. I find that there's a lot of resistance to anything that is not already generated by the parish pastoral council or by the parish priest or coming from the bishop. So if you're doing anything new, it's really discouraged. So my dream is to be able, at least initially, to be able to use the Jesuits to open up these doors somehow, as people are trained. Because if there's something like that and it is known that there's some form of, let me misuse the word imprimatur, if there's some form of something like that, it will get more accepted, and then we will be able to reach out. Edel and I try to do that a lot, but getting invitations or people say, yeah, it's a good idea, and then it dies there. So that is more the challenge than actually availability to go out. Ignatian spirituality and the spiritual exercises in totality have a lot of gems that the family can use. So it is not a one answer question. I mean, doesn't have one answer, because it's a process. Like, what if you do examine as a family on a regular basis, you begin to notice what your kids are called to. What do they like? What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? And you can go to more discernment in terms of what is God asking of us as parents? How are we being asked to guide this child? What is the child being asked to do? And as they grow older, you're involving them in thinking about their future and preparing them for it. It actually, the spiritual exercises can actually form a very good basis for parenting, because as parents, we really have no idea what we are doing. But when you use the spiritual exercises that encourage you to stop, reflect, observe, all that, you will be able to discern together as a family, and you can do a family discernment. There is a way the family can also help a child make that decision, which is called an election in the spiritual exercises, to what they will do next. And because it's life, even if it happens and it doesn't work, you walk with them a journey to the next one. But in that, as a parent, you also begin to appreciate that you need to prepare them for the world. As the principle and foundation says, they are gifts for us. So how do you prepare this gift for the world? So if we use the spiritual exercises, then you can actually prepare them to go out and walk the journey long before it's time to go out. So that's how I would answer that question. And on the preparing the materials, that's a difficult question for me, because I know it can be done and there's will to do it. But the truth is, the third challenge I mentioned, time. Because we are fully employed 8 to 5. You go home, you have a family, you have this and that activity. So you have this going on in your head. But I want to do it. But it's a question of why am I doing it? If I think I'm doing it for the money, then it won't get done. If I want to help, I'm volunteering, and where's the resource to support me get this done? And I think that's a question we are struggling with at the moment, a very real question. There is will to do it, there is how to do it, but I think we'll get there. And we have the Spain model, we know about the books, so there's a lot we can do. But I think it's thinking about the sustainability of it, in the sense of when we start, are we able to see it to completion and implementation? I think that's the question we haven't answered. There's a lot on the internet that we are reading and looking at, but from a lot of the parents I have talked with, they are not sure that what they get off the internet can be relied on. So if we have resources that have, they're from a credible source and they're publicized, they will tend to use that as opposed to all other sources. So that's something to pursue.